Hi everyone, my name is Liz. Welcome, especially welcome if you are new here. This is our fifth and final live stream in this fantastic series where we bring you industry experts to give you advice completely for free. And this time is super special because, first of all, we are having none other than John Santos in the house. Hello, John.
Thank you for having me on, guys. I appreciate you. I'm excited to dive into some things with you, everyone.
Yeah, and the second thing is that you guys can win some amazing prizes. So, three lucky viewers are going to get $50 from us. All you have to do is go to the description of the video, click on the very first link, and give us your name and your email. That's the only thing we're going to use this for. We're not going to be spamming you with emails or anything. But if you win by the end of this live stream, at the end of it, you're going to get an email saying that you have won. We're going to announce it here, but if you're watching the recording, I'm sorry, you missed it. If you're still live here with us during this entire live stream, you can go and you can sign up. So go do it right now. And I am going to stop talking because John has some amazing insights to share with you guys.
Thank you. Thank everyone that came on this live stream today. I know, and for the Printful team for hosting it because it's like almost midnight their time. So greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. And the presentation and the overall goal of what I want to accomplish with you guys is to help you launch a profitable brand by pricing to win. What does this mean? This means being able to launch a product, whether you currently have some products that you're selling and perhaps you're looking to turn it up to the next level and start creating a brand, or whether you are new to it and you're still thinking about things, how can you position your product to be a brand that's sought after so you could charge the right prices for it? So we're going to cover from beginners to more advanced level. I'm really hoping that this helps you guys kind of give you the information that you need to really take your brand to that next level. And if this is the first time you're hearing about me or you're meeting me or you're getting to know who is John Santos, well, about 15 years ago, I actually started my journey into entrepreneurship, and it was out of a college. It was actually a community college here in Vegas. And I had an idea for a business that I then went on to do a business plan for. We won some business plan competitions, which gave us some money to actually launch the business. We were actually developing backpacks and student products, apparel, headwear, any product you can name. This was about 15 years ago, which was a little bit before Shopify was a thing. So I learned a lot of things the hard way, a lot of things the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, of spending money on mass manufacturing products, to then having a lot of failed launches and releases and having some successes, and then the ups and downs of what makes entrepreneurship fun but difficult. And it was around 2015, about 10 years ago, that I launched my very first video. And I launched that video because at the time I was about 5-6 years into the journey, and I had spent all of this time and resource like trying to get things off the ground. And then as I dove into the industry, I realized, wow, there's a lot of things here that are being gatekeeped. So I was one of the first channels to start sharing this information and sharing, like, here are the suppliers, here are the resources, here's Shopify. So then when I heard about Printful, I was like, you can make products on demand that would normally require you to like go to a factory and start printing in bulk and then getting all these like crazy price points in order for you to get a low cost and be able to launch. Printful bypassed all of that. So it was incredible. But my story began with doing things the hard way, the ups and downs. And I don't know if you guys saw a little slide there, but I threw in this slide because this was one of those up moments for us. This was a moment that we were on the national stage with Steve Harvey. This was about 6 years ago or so. And we developed this custom bag that held your backpack, and we were on national TV. And that was like one of those very high moments that I was like, wow, how can I bring this excitement that I had, how can I bring it to the industry overall as a whole? And that's when I started taking YouTube more seriously. So as you guys see on my channel right now, we're coming up to about 500,000 subscribers on the channel. And we service anybody from new brand owners to people that are already in business to people that want to expand beyond just a simple t-shirt into more custom products. So that's kind of what our channel is all about. And today we have served numerous clothing brands. So we're talking about your everyday streetwear brand to your retail boutiques to your drop shippers. We work with a lot of different entrepreneurs. So I've heard a lot of different stories of where you're at and where you want to go. And there's a lot of commonalities that I found through all of that, which is some of those commonalities and those lessons we're actually also infusing into students into high school and college programs. So our channel started with a mission to make business easy and allow you to make money on a budget. And if I were to break down the three categories that people watching may kind of dive into or fall into, the three categories that I typically see, and this is and I'm sharing these because based on these three categories, we're going to dive into how you could start your brand and the ways that you need to think about launching products and pricing them. So the first category is we typically have people that are online, people that have a following. You might have 1,000 followers, you might got 100,000 or maybe 1 million followers or 20 million followers. You have influence in the space, and you have influence, and maybe you want to start expanding and making merch or making products. The next category that I typically run into and work with are people that have discovered a new market. So these people have identified an opportunity in a market that might be a big potential because there's not enough competition there. And then lastly is the entrepreneurs, the people that want to start up a business and a brand, and they decided to start with a clothing brand or drop ship a product. This is the easiest way to get started. So a lot of times people do their research and then decide, hey, I want to dive into this. How can I get started? And oftentimes they'll run into one of our videos, or they'll run into one of Printful's videos, and then they'll start. But then once you start to realize, okay, what should I do? My products aren't moving. They're not selling. Why is this? I need help with marketing. I need help with sales. And that's typically like where it comes back down to the fundamentals that I'm going to discuss to you guys today. So if I'm moving too fast, Liz, you let me know. If you have any questions, feel free to break in.
I
Or
will.
even
I
through the comments.
100% will. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So the three key objectives for today, just so you guys can kind of get a lay of the land. These are the three things that I always shop with brand owners, and I ask them to really think about before they start to sell a product or design a product, or if they already made a product and it's not selling, what's the reason for it? And typically it falls into one of these categories. The first is in needing to identify your customer avatar. Now, if you haven't sold a product, or if you have sold a product, you need to be able to identify who it is that you're currently selling to or want to sell to. From that, you need to design the right products that are for them, right? It's sometimes I feel like as entrepreneurs, we want to design products that we like or that we think might resonate with our audience. But oftentimes that's not the case. Our style may be so limited, but your market's ability to buy your brand you can have a huge potential in people buying your stuff if you're designing it the right way for that avatar. And then step 3 is closing sales and having the right product, having the right price for your products. Sometimes people want to compete on price and just have the lowest price, and that's not always the way to go. So we're going to be diving into a couple of different ways for you to look at your pricing strategies. So I want to talk about identifying your customer avatar. All right, so your customer avatar it could either be your audience avatar, your key audience avatar, or your your existing buyer of your products, right? So oftentimes we don't really pay too much attention. We might know them a little bit, but we don't give them the right traits or characteristics or have enough data on them to then, decide to launch a certain product line or to launch a new product line. So what you want to start with is identifying your core customer. Now, this is who's currently buying from you or supporting you. And a lot of times, guys, this information can be found by actually speaking to them on a call, doing a live stream like this and bringing them on, and just asking questions. So the goal for you is to be able to really identify who your audience is, like who's the people that are really buying from you or that are on every live stream or that are responding to your email campaigns. From that, you want to start gathering data. So you want to start getting data like their living situations, their hobbies, passions. You really want to break down their personal aspirations. What do they want to accomplish in life? And then their interests and brands that they purchase from and that they associate with. Now, all of this is information that will then start to help you paint a visual picture of what your audience or your customer really likes and resonates with. And this is important when you start to develop products and you start to create designs and you start to put a price associated to it. Now, for existing customers, I made this like this 10-step question. If you guys are watching this, just take a screenshot of it. Go through and just control your Command 5, or if you're on MacBook, just screenshot this page and then reference it in the future. I'm not going to go through all of it, but essentially, what you want to have is for your existing customers, you want to have this is a list of 10 common questions you can ask them. So get on a call or send out a survey. You want to really figure out what is motivating them to buy from you and how you are different from the competitors, as well as what other brands are they purchasing from and why are they purchasing from them. So this little checklist here is something that you could dive into with them on a live stream. You could dive into them on an email survey. You want to have this data. And when it comes to your new market, when it comes to those people that may be watching and are thinking about either, hey, I have an influence, I want to launch a product, well, there's 10 other questions that you should think about asking for them as well. And you can screenshot these. But the goal for you is to essentially be able to really, really start to understand who are the people that are really following you, like who are the people that have been with you since like day one. And then from that, how can you reach others like them, right? So like your core audience right now is somebody that's been following you, but now you want to reach other people like them. So the goal for you to get on these calls is to identify what commonalities do they have and where can you go out, what type of content can you make to start reaching more of them, right? Because sometimes we get lucky, we hit a certain video and it goes viral and now we get like millions of views, and then you just start getting all these new potential leads and customers, and then you're like, I want to launch a brand for them and I think I want to call it this, and then it doesn't resonate with anybody and it doesn't sell because you never identified like what is the reason that they followed you, what are the products that they purchase, what do they like, what styles and fits. All of this plays into the product development and sales. Now, from that, you want to build your avatar. All right. So this is an exercise that to me is one of the funnest. And apologize if there's like a very loud noise or anything. We're in a warehouse, so there's like trucks in the back every once in a while. But so you want to start to build that profile. And a great way to do it is with like Google Slides or a Pinterest board. And then more importantly, you guys gotta always remember to it's going to be something that evolves. So it's going to be something that you set right now. You're going to do your best foot forward to really put something together. But then remember that it's something that can continue to evolve. So I want to just show you guys a very basic one that we had here. This was like 20 or 30 slides. So I just put a couple 3 here. But the goal here is to, like, for our audience, for Street Crafter, it's the people, like the types of movies that they watch, like what type of movies inspire them, what type of movies move them, why do they get inspired by movies like Inception or Wolf of Wall Street or Top Gun, and like how did he grow up, how did this person grow up, what TV shows did they watch, what influences did they have, what type of music are they listening to and why, and where do those artists fit in within their overall purchasing decision. So there's a lot of these like very they call them like psychographics, and it's essentially all part of that. You're really trying to understand your audience to a very deep level, because once you do that, you can start to design and make things the right way.
This is also like the truest thing ever, especially the point about it continuing to evolve. Back when I joined Printful, I want to say it was almost like 4 years ago now. One of the very first things I was told to do, literally within like my first week or something, was like, okay, go reach out to a couple of customers and see if they'll talk to you, and just like talk to them and find out what their pains are, what they want, what features are they missing, what things do they like, what kind of products do they like, literally down to the tiniest things of like, oh, I want this color added to this thing, because it means that we get to know more and more and more about our customers, and then like create the stuff that is actually needed for them, right? And I wasn't like the first hire of Printful, and then after that we didn't do this anymore, right? Like I joined many years into the company's existence, and yet still we continue doing this thing. If you're a seller, you should be doing the same exact thing. And if somebody is a fan of your brand and you're a couple of years in, they're going to be happy to talk to you. It's going to be nice. And you can be like, hey, here's like a, I don't know, 10% discount for another purchase for you to make, talk to you, and figure it out for yourself.
Yes, I think one of the easiest, it's intimidating, especially if you've never called anybody on a phone. It's like, hey, this is John, and I just saw you buy something from me. It's a little intimidating, but I think sometimes it just, once you pick up the phone, just try to plan to do at least five, 5 in a row. It could take anywhere from 10, 15 minutes. So you might be there for about an hour just doing those calls, but by doing that periodically, you start to get a pretty good feel of who your audience is, and then you start to map things. And by fully understanding that, that's when you could really start to like create things that you would never think people would want to buy from you. So I would say the testament of what Printful offers today is from that, like it's that evolution of understanding who their audience is and what they needed. And just like your brand and your product, like they might buy that first time, and you'll see a couple people continue to buy from you. You'll have that repeat customer, 15, 20, 30 purchases, right? And you need to understand where they're at. What made them purchase the first time, and why do they continue to repurchase from you? Because if you can understand that, you can help create that effect with more and more of your customers. And then more importantly, you can launch the right products that they're looking to buy next, right? So for instance, once you kind of understand that, you can make the products that they're looking for. So, you know, some customers may not like the overly bright and colorful things. Some customers might be more into the toned down. That you might be working, like you're essentially targeting audience members that are at different stages in trends, right? So for instance, there's even that, like there's like the early adopters, right? Early adopters are always going for the latest and greatest, the newest things. But if your audience isn't an early adopter, then you going to a bright and colorful on-trend thing may not get you any sales out the gate, and you may be wondering, okay, why isn't anybody buying this? Well, because maybe your target audience and the people that you're serving are actually looking for something that they're more comfortable in wearing right now, and maybe in 6 months they'll want to wear that, right? So there's different times to launch certain products, and it really depends on who your audience is and understanding it. So as an example, you also got to look into like the fit and the style of the clothing that they are wanting to wear. So if you're launching an apparel brand, are they more into a relaxed fit, or into more of the soft, comfortable goods like Liz got on, or are they more into like the heavyweight, more into a little bit more heavier? It doesn't necessarily, like, it might be more scratchy, but they like that like rugged feel, and they want to buy it at a certain price, so they're not going to pay you $200 for that hoodie. Maybe they only want to spend up to 80, right? Understanding where the customer is allows you to choose the right blank. So when if you're starting this on a budget, oftentimes I recommend that you start to test with blanks, right? And once you figure out, okay, this is the type of blank people like, then you can start to develop custom products. But always start with a blank and finding the right shape, the right fit, the right colorway that your audience will like. And of course, if all of this is going over your head, start with black. a black hoodie. It's a great place to start. I would say is maybe 50%, 60% of sales on a lot of different brands and printing platforms. Black is a very popular color, so if you're not sure what this means, just choose a product that you think is going to be safe, and it's going to appeal to your audience's needs. From that, you're going to dive into the designs, right? And when it comes to designs, again, this is all going to be dependent on what they're attracted to. So are they more of a minimalist? Do they shop for more minimalist branded products, right? Do they like more simplicity and like really thoughtful design? Or are they into wearing things that are bold and loud? Remember, just because you see something that's on trend right now doesn't mean that you need to replicate it for your brand, because it all is dependent on what your audience likes. So you need to figure out what designs they're attracted to so you can create the right graphic designs. And we're not going to dive into like the designing part right now, but this example here on the right is from a brand called Broken Planet. They're very like colorful, they're super bold, and they have and they're attracting a certain market, right? It's a certain demographic of customers that they have that may not necessarily buy more of the minimalist and more of the enhanced look and, on the left. So there's different markets and there's different designs for different people. So that brings us to, and I'm sharing all this to bring us to the perception of pricing, right? So when it comes to pricing, we are a lot of times people say, hey, you know what, like it's hard for me to price a product and make any money because people aren't willing to spend, $80 for a hoodie, or they're not willing to spend $35 for a shirt if I'm selling it with print on demand. Like I don't have that good of margins. But I'm here to say that there's a perception of pricing, all right? And what does this mean? This means your ability to design something that's original. So if you're having a hard time selling things, are you just copying other things out in the market? So now when you're launching something, you have to compete on price. And when you're designing something, are you looking for ways to make it stand apart? So instead of just going with a traditional maybe DTG, maybe you're looking at some embroidery elements into the design that help elevate that product. Or maybe you're looking at some DTF options and printing on different areas, or even sublimation. When it comes to sublimation, you can make some really custom stuff with it. So designing, how original or hard to find is what you're creating? Because if it just looks like everybody else, it's going to be hard to sell at a higher price point. Now, from that does your product style elevate above the competition? So does the products and garments that you selected, does it look more elevated, right? Just because you're doing it on print on demand doesn't mean that like you're competing with everybody else doing print on demand. If you choose a certain blank, you photograph it a certain way, you build your marketing and branding around it, that product can look 10 times better than it does on just a stock photography, guys. So Printful gives you some great photos to start, but you have to then go out and market the actual brand. You have to go out and take the photos in a way that don't look like stock templates and that looks creative and different. So in this example over here on the right is essentially your marketing skills, right? Like, can you make it look like a high demand or can you make it look like your product has high demand, or can you make it look like it has high value, like you're providing high value compared to the price that you're charging? And that's the beginning elements of pricing. Everything you buy has a SKU, right? We're all buying the same T-shirt, but it's the branding there. It's the way that they messaged it on social media, on their website. That's what gets you to purchase a little bit more, a little bit higher. If you're just competing in the search terms for like certain product categories on Etsy or marketplaces, you're going to be competing on price there. But we're going to come up with a strategy, and I'll share that with you guys in just a second, of how you could start in that competitive field and then start growing your brand the other way. Which brings us to, I don't know, does the back thing sound too loud, or are we good? I'm just making sure.
I think we're good.
Sounds good?
I can't hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's distracting me a little bit, so if I'm losing my train of thought, apologize, guys. No. So now I want to dive into pricing strategies for print on demand. So now that you understand, I hope I was clear about, when you start to identify your customer and your key customer, and then you identify what they value and what's important to them and why they make certain purchases. From that, you should be designing in a way to attract and really sell to them, and then choose the right product blanks and the right designs for it, right? So once you got those like foundational elements built, then comes a pricing strategy. Because at the end of the day, the way that you formulate your pricing is going to make somebody want to buy right now, or potentially wait till the end of the week, or maybe till the end of the month when they got a little bit more budget. But if you've done the foundational elements, you're eventually going to close that customer. It's just a matter of when. So when it comes to the pricing strategy, there's pretty much a low price, high turn rate. So this is, when it comes to print on demand, you obviously are going to be playing with margins, right? So there's going to be margins for some products may have lower margins than others, and these costs here are just going to be example costs on like somewhat of a mid-range blank versus like a low range. So don't quote me on these prices for Printful being the one to make them for you at this cost. This is just like average cost of certain products. So when it comes to certain product categories, you need to realize that they'll have lower margins. Just out the gate, a t-shirt it may not give you the greatest margin. Like if you embellish it the way you want, maybe 2 hits and maybe some little branding elements that you put, you might be up around $18 cost drop ship to your customer, right? Which means that certain products, you need to think about it being more like the milk. I always share this analogy. It's like when you go to a grocery store, and a lot of people don't go to grocery stores no more, but when you go to the app, and you're like, oh, I need to buy some milk. And then when you're there to buy some milk, you're like, okay, they're going to ship this to me and they're going to charge me a flat rate. I might as well add more items to the cart, even though I just wanted that almond milk or that one little product, right? That product has lower margins. So in the back of a store, when you go to like a Walmart, you'll find the milk at the back. It doesn't have the greatest margin for that store, but it gets people into their store. So when it comes to pricing strategies for your products, you need to have some products that will bring people into the store and buy. They may not give you the greatest margins. It may only be a 28, 25, 20% margin. Sometimes you might be selling it at a break even, but it's getting you that customer, it's getting you that data, and it's starting that relationship, because people pay attention to what they pay for, right? So if somebody pays for your brand and your products, they're going to pay more attention to what you're sending them in an email. They're going to pay more attention to your posts because you've now started that relationship with them. Now, you don't want to just have low price products though, because if you have low price products, you're always going to be having a very hard time growing, because those margins aren't going to allow you to scale. So you always need to also have some good mid-tier products in there. And mid-tier products are essentially a product that you can get some pretty decent margins on, at least 50%. And these products should also match your avatar's base expectation, meaning, okay, if I buy a $60 hoodie, it should feel like a $60 hoodie and not like a $20 hoodie that I could buy from Ross that was on a discount rack, right? Like, you need to elevate the expectations with what you're selling. So if somebody gets that $60 hoodie and it feels cheap, they're probably not going to buy from you again. So you need to sell. But if you have an audience and a customer base that only knows a $30 hoodie, then you should sell them a $30 hoodie, because they know what that value is, right? So pricing is subjective based on who you're selling to. Somebody that knows quality and gets a $120 hoodie, but it feels like a $40 hoodie, is going to know you're scamming them, right? But if you match the expectation with the product, you're going to continue getting that customer's business. So it's important to understand mid-tier, you need to have good margins, and then you also want to look at some high price profit products. Now, these products are typically going to be something that runs in a limited edition or a one of one, or a very like getting this means that they're either going to get, they're going to get a shout out from you if you share it with them. They're going to feel like they're a part of the tribe officially, because there's only 10 of them out or only 20 of them out there, right? So create some limited edition items that allow you to charge a premium. And this might be the $120, but you're still having a pretty good cost of 40 and you have really good margins. So this might be more of like one of the bomber jackets that like Printful has, or even like some of their premium sweaters. Like, they sell for a higher price to make, but if you can market it correctly and position it for your audience, you can make that margin and build that relationship with them.
And this is so true even if you are running a POD business. I know that people kind of like get into their heads a little bit where they're like, okay, I'm selling with POD. How can anything be limited edition? I can always just like go and get it and buy it. But it's really about how you position it. If you feel weird about saying that something's limited edition when it's not, you can make it limited edition. You can like order it and like, I don't know, sew on a tiny little like fun button that you made out of clay, something, I don't know, sign it, like do 20 signed t-shirts that are going to go out, or add a little something to the package that's like a personal little thank you note or something. If you want to make it truly super, super limited edition and really bring up that margin and make it worth the people's while to order something that is super high value, you can do that. You can make that happen.
And then sometimes, like, I think a lot of times when people are selling on demand, remember, like, it's always important to like build a community around what you're doing, right? So these higher limited edition products can also be a good opportunity for you to like bring in like, hey, we're gonna do this like private. If you're a fitness brand, we're doing this private morning, 6 a.m. workout stretch we're all going to be doing it together. If you bought this, you're going to get access to this. And now you're like building on top of what your brand means, right? Or maybe it's like, hey, we're hosting this event. The person that buys, whoever buys this limited edition product is going to get this at this event, right? So it's like different ways for you to start building a relationship. It's not just going to be that like they get that product. It could be as simple as getting the product and it's signed, or you could think about other creative ways to start to like build a community within your brand and product lines. Like there's like I think a great example of this, and somebody that's absolutely crushing it in this space is definitely Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast
True.
has a way to like, launch a video and then he's like, hey, buy these little toys. It's a limited edition one and there's only 1,000 of them. And if you get these, you're going to be, like there's a certain game to them. And there's all kinds of ways that you could raise value by just, bringing the community into it. So whoever's watching your content, like bring them another step, in deeper in that relationship.
And the cool thing about on demand, especially with these like higher ticket items, is that you don't have to invest in them like upfront and be like, okay, I'm gonna buy 100 of these like really expensive like leather bomber jackets and stuff. You don't have to have them in stock and hope that every single one of them gets bought. You can make it a limited edition and be like, okay, these people are ordering them, and then you send these people who ordered them like an invite link to your fitness stretching thing in the morning. So you're not investing up front while still taking advantage of this ability to have these like high price, high profit items.
Exactly. Awesome. So now I want to dive into like to wrap up some of these strategies. What I want to talk about is pricing strategies for certain brands or where you fit in the market, right? So typically a pricing strategy for premium brands is that you're leading your marketing with high priced products, right? So if you're positioning your brand as a premium, meaning like I'm not a everyday an everyday blank. I'm a brand and I have that brand power. I'm trying to build that. Then you want to lead your marketing with what you do with the higher priced goods. This might be those $120 sweaters or those leather jackets that are being made on demand or any of those like high priced products that you could position. You might you want to really put them at the forefront. You want to do all your marketing around that. So then when people are looking at it, they're like, oh man, this is really cool. Like, how much is it? And now they're looking at it and they're saying, oh, this is $200. Like, that's a lot. But then they're going to say, what else do they got? So then you also want to offer accessible price products. These might be those $35, $40 t-shirts or the $35, $40 hats, right? And I want to say that Broken Planet has this strategy, Fear of God. You're looking at any brand that's positioning themselves as a premier or luxury brand. This is a strategy that they're using. So in the example for Broken Planet, they led their marketing with their latest drop as like with the puffer jacket. And that puffer jacket looked really cool on social media. You could see it like they photographed it nicely. They did the lifestyle imagery to it. So now as somebody that's like interested, like, oh, I wonder where this puffy jacket, well, how much does it cost? They go on the website, they're going to see it's $185. All right. And you're like, man, almost $200 plus with shipping, right? So now you're looking at it, well, what else do they got? And then you're going to go to their hoodies, which are mid-range, right? Hoodies might be $100. It's mid-range compared to a $200 item, right? So instead of them competing on a $85 hoodie and a $85 bomber and a $40 hoodie and a $10 beanie, they just raised the price perception, right? The perception of pricing is higher. So now you go 185, that seems high tier. Then you go into the mid tier, which is 100, and then they have a low tier offer that's available to anybody, right? And this is that $35 beanie. So you're capturing a sale. The goal is to get the person, they've already looked at your content, they already started to research your brand, and now you want to transact with them. You want to bring them into your community. So you want to lead with high and then have accessible products priced at a lower price if you're going as a premium brand.
The number of
Now,
times I've fallen for that is embarrassing. The number of times I've actually like clicked on something that looks so cool and I go in and then I get really sad and then I just buy a t-shirt with the logo of the brand.
Yeah,
Just it
you're like, I'm still here.
yeah. Oh God. It honestly hurts to like see this explained so well and to be like, oh God, I've done that. I've done that this month. Literally,
Yeah,
where I
we all do.
remember seeing something so incredible. I think it was like a pair of really cool sneakers on Instagram, and going into that, and buying eventually a keychain with that same little design, because I was just like, no, I can't afford this. But what else did I have? That design was nice. And I don't know, you can think of like Gucci or something. They don't lead their marketing with the t-shirts, but they do sell t-shirts. And that is just for the people who want something Gucci but can't afford the other thing, so they'll get a t-shirt.
Exactly, exactly. And sometimes we could see this even play out in like if you go into any store, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco. As soon as you walk into the store, they'll have these like huge electronic displays, right? They're like 80-inch TV, $2,000, new refrigerator, 1,500. So as you're walking into the store, you're like, wow, that's an expensive TV. I don't really need a TV. Who buys a TV here, right? You're wondering if anybody's buying these things, and they put it right at the front, because now as you go into the store, everything else is going to seem more affordable, right? And it's going to be like, oh, that $20 bag of chips, not bad compared to the $1,500 TV, right? Like, so it's a good way to like change the audience's perception of what they're buying and how much it's costing them, because it's like you introduce something so high that it's like, oh, I'm not going to buy that, but I will buy this because it doesn't seem that much compared to it. So it's also a psychology thing that you got to start looking at your pricing as a strategy. You got to price it accordingly. Like, you might not have as many of these bombers. You might only make 50 of them or 100 of them because you're limited in what you can produce. Um, but with those, it allows you to market something that looks premium, and then all your other products that you have good stock of will essentially have that downwind of sales going to them. So always look at pricing as a strategy. It's not just at the end all be all, but more importantly, you always want to keep updating. Now, there is the strategy on the flip side, right? So now we went from premium pricing, meaning like you want to have a premium position brand, higher prices. That's something that you should always strive to do as a brand owner, as an entrepreneur. You don't want to compete on price. But if you are competing on price, because let's face it, sometimes selling a low price product with a little bit of margins, if you can make $2 on 100,000 units, right? Like, you got $200,000 that's in your pocket, and if it came out and if you didn't have to pay for that, that's incredible. But the reality for that is that you're going to be competing in a sea of competitors, right? So when it comes to pricing your products, when it comes to pricing products for the market in a more saturated market, what you want to do is you want to definitely look at leading with a low price. What this means is you want to have a price that's at break even or a little bit above it, especially if you're selling on marketplaces. So if you're selling on like Etsy or TikTok Shop and you realize that this design or trend that you're following is something that's competitive, well, you want to lead with prices on a unit, whether it's like a toddler small or like, it's like, oh, $7.99 for this t-shirt graphic. I like this. You're making them click on your product, right? But then they're going to see it's a toddler small. So then if they want to buy the adult large, they're going to pay $20, $22, and maybe your cost on that is still like 17, right? So your margins aren't really there, but you're getting that transaction. So leading with low price is a strategy, especially if you can have that SKU that you could sell at a break even at a very low cost. Then that's a great way to start. But then you also want to add other product categories that give you better margins. And those product categories may be like a certain embellishing technique that you change up, and now they see like, okay, this is printed on a regular DTG, but then this design allows me to customize it with some embroidery. Interesting. Like, maybe I'll customize the product instead. So maybe they were only going to purchase a $12 t-shirt from you, but now they're willing to spend $30 on a hoodie from you, and you have more margins on that product that you allow them to customize. So there's different strategies for it when it comes to pricing for the masses. If you're in a competitive market, it is a race to the bottom, though. Whenever you're competing on price, it's a race to the bottom, and you might be competing with overseas manufacturers that are also making their things selling direct to consumer, right? So you got to keep all these plays in mind, and you got to look at ways to how can you increase the price if it means maybe adding certain benefits or features to it.
I have a very specific question in this, and if you guys have a question as well, you should go into the chat and put your question in there, and our fantastic moderator for the day, Michael, is going to gather all of them up and put them in here, and we're going to get to them. But I get privileges because I get to just sit here and talk to you. So my very specific question is, in which of these cases would you recommend bundles more? So, like bundling products. Is it more for when you've led someone in with a lower cost item and they just kind of like feel bad leaving now that they found out it's going to be a little bit more expensive? Or is it the other way around? Is bundling more useful when you've already sold someone on the idea of something really, really cool and you just kind of tack on something at the end?
It's a great question, and I think when it comes to bundling, bundling lower price goods to help upsell them is probably the way to go. More than likely, like when you start with a low price and you can bundle to a higher price, that's definitely what you want to do.
Mm.
But when you go on the premium side and you start to bundle as a discount, that's you use that strategy when products haven't sold, right? So like if you see a lot of units that haven't been moving and you need to make some sales, you never really want to discount the products on your site and say, hey, this design is now 50% off. Because as soon as you do that 50% off on your brand,
That looks
everybody's going to
bad.
expect that you're going to discount it next time, right? So you want to offer bundles to move slow moving units or to like get some of sales in, right? For like if you're positioning it as a brand. And if you're selling just a low cost product, you want to use bundles to upsell and create a bigger purchase price. Hope
Okay.
that made sense, Shanna.
Yeah, it did. Okay, that helps me because, like, it's one of those things that, like, I understand the concept of, but now that we've gotten to a point where, like, okay, there are certain different ways to lead in a customer, I wondered, like, which one is better for that. But that made total sense. Okay, I'm gonna not interrupt the
Yep.
flow that much.
No, this is good. This is good. That was actually the end of the presentation. What I wanted to leave people off with was that like you're going to compete in two spaces. You're going to compete either in the low price, and with low price, you gotta have a strategy for it. So like what type of add-ons can you include to that sale? Like if you have a T-shirt, can you also make some mugs, and can you compete? And it's all about listing. So with low price, you're going to need to get distribution out there. You need to be on marketplaces. If you're selling on your own Shopify store and you're leading with low price, it's a great way to also get customers, but you have to also eventually start making a little bit more in the margins, right? And this means either the bundling or offering a unique product that people are paying a higher price for so you can grow that store. Because with returns, with discounts that you may need to give, with issues that may come up, like if you're competing in a razor thin market, it's really hard to grow. So you need to start to elevate your overall margins. And the way that you do that is by creating a brand versus just selling a product. So a brand is something that people associate with, right? It's something that they understand and that they want to be a part of. It's a community that they want to join. So to go from a low price to a premium, it's a great strategy. It might be hard to do out the gate, but if you can add the right products and the right offer to it, you can get somebody paying a low price to then start paying a little bit more as time goes on. But the goal for that, guys, is just to make sure that you keep at the top of mind who is it that you are selling to, what do they really value, what brands are they purchasing, what designs do they like, how should it fit on them, right? Understanding what they want, so then you can make those products at a price that they're willing to pay. And this is all my socials here, but I definitely want to dive into the Q&A. Any questions people got, I would love to answer them as well.
We got quite a few, so let's get right into it so that we don't keep people here for another hour. All right, we've got a question. The very first one from Dreamer. John, how do you monitor current design trends and implement them into your business strategy?
It's a great question. So when it comes to design, designs are subjective, right? The designs that people like, the designs that people will buy will depend on who you're selling to. So, but then there's also certain design trends that may be coming or popping off that you can implement into your own brand. So good ways to monitor things is to always look at who are the key competitors in your space. They kind of set a precedent, precedent for what's going to come later. But then also look at some of the brands that are more niche. You need to have like your target brand of like, hey, everybody that is my customer loves this brand. Let's just say it's for example's sake, it's Nike. All right, if you're in the gym space and you're competing and you got Nike as the big dog. From that, you might have more niche brands like On Running, or you might have Hoka, or you might got even more niche brands like Mentality or Sunday Mass. So you want to start to like really put together who are all the main competitors in that space. And then you need to always be looking at, okay, what is Nike doing and how do these other brands react? Or what are these other brands doing that is now making Nike react? So keeping a good pulse on who your audience is buying from will allow you to see what trends may be coming, right? And a lot of the times, if you can get a trend before it gets super hot, then that's when you can start selling some products at prices that other people can't, right? Because you brought something new. And then you'll also see a lot of the same things happening. Like once you start to see this, you're like, wow, all these brands are doing the same exact design style, which tells you that, hey, if I'm trying to get that customer, I should probably go for that design style as well, because it's already proven, it's getting them sales. You don't have to like reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, and I get these two kind of opposing points of view from people. One, very often from like creatives who are artists and who are very much married to their idea of what looks good, and they're like, okay, I have my own style. I'm never ever gonna follow trends. And I like get that idea, but it's very easy to kind of get stale with that. And the idea is not to follow trends and make anything that is trendy and not even care about consistency and brand image. The idea is to be aware of, okay, what are people liking? What are the colors that might be outdated at this point? What are the design trends that are really important right now, so that you can infuse them into your brand and then keep your brand relevant? We actually had this conversation just recently on the channel with Adobe, where we kind of like discussed their design trends. This is also like a starting point for people, where you can go in and you can read these kinds of trend reports and be like, okay, these are the trends that are currently going on, but how do I put them into my brand and make them my own?
Exactly.
And we have another question, also kind of like in keeping with these kinds of designs and products, from Butterball. What's the most profitable type of product you can sell?
Butterball, how's it going? Okay, so profitable product you could sell. So there's always, if you're in the print on demand side or in the apparel side, I guess the most profitable is going to be the thing that gives you the most margins. And to me, historically, it's always been like headwear or embroidered products. Embroidered products and like headwear accessories and things like that have such low cost, and customers are already willing to spend a good amount on them. So like to price a hat at around $30, $35 isn't like a crazy thing to do. And the cost on them might be closer to 10 or 11. So you got like a huge margin spread there. Other products that might be super profitable, depending on your niche, might be like certain little accessory items, like either a mug that goes with it. If they could personalize it, now you could charge them $20, $25, and it costs you maybe $6 to $8 to make. Right? So like it all depends on what you're selling, but your high profit products are typically going to be things that people are already expected to, like, in their mind, they already know they're going to spend $30 on a hat. So you should definitely have some type of design that like a beanie or some type of headwear that goes with the season, right? So like in Broken Planet's example is a great one there. It's a $35 beanie retail. I'm pretty certain that they're getting it for about $2 to $3, right? So that's like a crazy markup, and it's a great product to sell to spread your brand.
Yeah, and it's such a moment, especially in comparison to those like hoodies and jackets that are super expensive. On a regular Monday, if I was just walking down the street and saw a little store where it's just like $30 beanies by here, I would not be like, okay, $30, it's a steal. But when you compare it to these other high ticket items, you're like, oh, okay, I can afford the beanie. I can get the beanie. Uh, and it feels like it's more of a deal and more of a like, okay, this is more of a value product in that situation.
Yep.
Next, we've got a question asking: is it better to look around forums to search for customer personas from competitor brands? So I'm guessing it's more of like if you are looking to start out and looking for these kinds of like new customers, not existing customers, but where do you research the new personas?
Okay, that's a great question. I love that question. So I would start with your interests. So yes, forums might be a good location. Forums are a great place to actually understand the market a lot better. So let's just say you were going into, I always just fall back on fitness. Right? If you're going to a fitness brand, you know that, hey, I really want to start this. I don't really understand who would buy this. Joining a forum like a fitness forum, multiple forums, running, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's performance training, like join the different levels. There's different categories for fitness, not just one general, right? Unless you're Nike, then you're competing in all the spaces, but you want to understand the different spaces that you have. Forums are a great place to start, and it's a great place to ask questions and interact. And it's also a great place to start building your credibility. So like when you do ask for feedback, people are willing to give feedback to you. So whether it's like a Reddit thread, really be active in those threads and give your feedback and perspective, because you're going to ask for it eventually, and it's a great place to get that real-time knowledge. In addition to that, you also want to be following and looking at what social media pages are associated with those categories. So if you're thinking about launching into a new space, you should be looking at, okay, where are the runners hanging out, or where are the weightlifters hanging out on, like what tips are they getting, where are they getting them from? And then start building out your Excel list of all these different categories that they hang out on social media, the forums that they're communicating with online. And then a great way to actually start getting some research down and some points is to start using ChatGPT. Like if there's certain like long threads you find, you can start to build questions and like start to like help. ChatGPT will start pulling some of that like audience data that may be coming from those blogs and stuff. It's actually pretty incredible what they do, because they can give you a pretty good starting point. So ChatGPT will give you a good starting point about what that audience really prefers on that website, or on that, or from that influencer, or from that page that you found. And then with that, you can start to compile your own information from it. So it's about gathering it from multiple sources and then trying to like, compile it all to make it something that fits within what you're trying to do, because you need to fit in a unique way. So your perspective, what you see, is going to be like the starting point. And again, once you get the sales or you don't get the sales, you have to reinvent and reanalyze. So this is creating your customer avatar and launching your first product is always a test, right? But you want to test it with the best information that you got available. And then once you find out what happens, did you sell out? Did nothing sell? Like you got to find out why that didn't work. And then you got to go back to reinventing, and maybe it's like, oh, maybe it's not this persona. Maybe I was completely off. Maybe it is the weightlifting persona and not the running persona, right? So there's different things you always got to be looking at, but it's always about reinventing it.
100%. And like it actually kind of relates to some of these other questions, because there's so much focus on, okay, how do I make absolutely sure that this is going to work, like that this product is going to work, that this exact pricing strategy is going to work for my exact customer. And almost never it's going to be perfect right immediately, but you got to keep iterating, you got to keep looking for information. All right, we have a specific question unrelated to pricing, but any tips on digital advertising and where to start?
Yes, digital ads are the best way to consistently get traffic to your store, right? And if you have a store that converts at 2 to 3%, that means that every 100 people that visit your site, maybe you get 2 to 3 orders, right? But when it comes to advertising, sometimes like there's a tactical part, right? There's a tactical part that's essentially like, this is what you need to do to set up your ad, to run it, to manage it on Meta, to track the pixels performance, and to see the conversion from your Shopify, right? There's like all that technical stuff. And it's definitely something that if you're wanting to run ads, you need to go through that. and it's something that's pretty robust. I started it a couple years ago. I'm still always learning. I'm like learning every year. I buy masterminds. I meet with people to like learn, okay, what's actually working for me this year. But then when you start to realize that advertising is essentially, marketing. I like to say marketing is essentially what your brand, like how you're positioning your product. Marketing is how you're positioning something, and advertising is how you're going to sell it, right? So when you're advertising, the most important part is going to be the creative. It's going to be like what you're actually telling people out there, right? It's what you're showing. It's the image that you're putting out there of your product, or that video that you're putting out there of your product. And how you're showing that video or that photo makes the biggest difference. And the reason for it is because if you understand, advertising is about making somebody's like inner desires become a public showcase, right? So like if I innerly desire to be fit, to be buff, to be a certain way, and I'm looking for, and like a brand advertises something to me, and it's like, hey, wear this shirt, look at the design, look how it makes you look in the gym. You're like, oh, I need that, right? But if you were to just copy people's ads, you don't understand why they're showing that guy in the gym doing the bench press, right? So advertising is all about the creative and how you're making somebody feel like that they innerly really desire.
Yeah, and if anyone watching is like, okay, I've got stuff figured out, but I'm really confused about like marketing and advertising. I just remember that literally a week ago, we had another live stream in this exact series where the entire topic was marketing, especially when you're starting out as an e-commerce brand. So like if you want another hour of just talk about like marketing strategies, you can watch that recording. But we're actually gonna jump a bit more into the nitty gritty and the specifics of what you recommended during your presentation. So we've got two kind of related questions. I want to just kind of like put them together for this. So one is about these high ticket versus lower ticket products. One question is there like an ideal ratio of products you'd recommend? Like how many low slash mid price products is best to have to not overshadow the higher tier ones? And also a question, would it make sense to have a lower version and even more premium version of high ticket items, or should you just focus on like one high ticket item?
Great question. Okay, so the first
That was
question
like
is the
four
amount
questions. I'm
of.
so sorry.
Yeah, no, this is good. So the first question, let's start with the first one. The first one I think was the amount of products that should be low to high, right? Like the
Yeah,
ratio
yeah,
to them.
yeah.
And that's honestly just going to depend on your like where you're selling, right? So like let's just assume you're selling on a Shopify store, then you could essentially control that ratio. It's not the biggest. I don't think a ratio is really that important, more than the categories of products. So if you have, let's say, 10 headwear products and they're all being priced at a, like, it's how you're going to like create collections with your brand, right? So like if you know that, hey, I'm going to do 5 hats, and we're going to do these 5 shirts, and then we're going to do these 5 hoodies, and like that's collection one, then like you're going to have different prices through that range, right? So like if you're on a Shopify store, it's whatever you want it to be, and you need to like just test those prices at those different levels. If you're on a marketplace, then if you're going for a low price strategy, then marketplaces are usually all dependent on listings. So how many listings can you put up? So that's going to be a ratio of a lot of low price products being listed and very little higher priced ones, right? Until you can figure out who's buying the higher priced ones, so you can list a lot more of those. So marketplaces are dependent on listings. So the more listings you can put out, the higher the chances you're going to get a sale. When it comes to your own Shopify store, your own e-commerce store, it's all going to be dependent on a collection. So what products are you releasing, for what reasons, and then how are you going to price it to hit those different ranges? And it might just be one low price product that you want to put out. And then if you're focused on creating a premium brand, that means that you're probably going to put a couple high price and maybe 2 to 3 low price, mid tier ones, right? So you're kind of getting the full spectrum. The second question was in regards to, what, can you say the second question again? I
Yeah,
thought I
like
had it in my head and it just slipped.
how I guess the way I'm interpreting is how many levels of high ticket items should you have? Like, does it make sense to have a lower and an even more premium version, or should it be just like one high ticket, pie in the sky star item?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So for example, if you know that you're positioning it as a like a premium side, you might only have one or two of those high priced products. And one of those products, like in the example with Broken Planet, they did a great job in just having one product with multiple colorways, right? So you're always looking at like how many SKUs are you managing at any given time. So for them it was a $200 jacket, and then they had multiple mid-range and then only one low range, right? So it's really going to depend on what you want to market, because if you have all these high priced products, you need to also spend the time marketing the selling points of those, right? So if you don't have the team to really market those benefits and features, you're going to like just do a lot of work listing and you're not going to get much conversion, because at the end of the day you got to sell that product, and you got to sell it through the imagery, through the videos, through the messaging that you put out on the ads. You got to spend time doing it. So the more that you have, the more work. But then if you could just focus on a handful, like whatever your team size is, focus on that, and then you can whatever works for you. But for the most part, 1 to 2 is a pretty good one if you're starting or growing a brand, and then having those different tiers on the lower end.
Yeah, it's always, I feel like, in my opinion, the best response to most questions of like, okay, how should I do this specifically? Always consider what can you handle at this point in your journey. I don't know, what's the
Yeah.
best email marketing tool, the one you can afford and the one that you can figure out on your own. Like that's it. That is the question of how many of this specific type of product should I be able to sell, just as many as you can sell well. You know, like it's better to sell 2 products super well than to sell 8 products very poorly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, we
Yeah, how many
have.
designs should I make? How many good designs can you make? That's such a great way to put it. Liz is an incredible teacher. I've always seen how she puts things together. Awesome.
Thank you, thank you. I get also get like a whole team of people also like writing alongside me, which means that I am able to create a lot more videos than like if I was just doing it alone. So we've got another question of this is super specific. So remember the advice that you gave about a toddler small shirt being the price driver on apps like TikTok or something. So based on your suggestion, are you saying to also design for kids if we are selling on a marketplace? What if the design is inappropriate? Do you have any suggestions on other ways to be competitive on price?
That's such a good question. So, if it's inappropriate for kids, I'm assuming it's something inappropriate for kids, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
great point. So, obviously, like the toddler strategy is one if it's appropriate for a kid and for adults. If it's not appropriate, then it might be something on you might want to just go on colorways or SKUs, right? So, like for instance, maybe the design that's selling the best is going to be your white or maybe your black t-shirt, right? And because it's a different you have like a different gilded, like a different blank associated with that. You might have a different blank associated with that product, and then on the yellow shirt you might have a very cheaper blank, right? Still has the same design, but it's a different SKU. And now because of that, you could sell that like yellow or that white shirt that's like a very different blend, a different price point. You can sell it at a lower cost than you would on like a black heavyweight tee, right? So it's also about the blanks that you select that you could start to be competitive on price. And then also the sizes. So you can list an extra small, right? And then that extra small can be your lowest price product in that market listing.
Yeah, and this is something where you can really test that price differential of like, okay, how much extra are people willing to pay compared to the price they just saw on the listing on the app. So like, let's say your yellow T-shirt that doesn't quite look right with the design that you made is going to be like somewhat like, let's say it's going to be like a $10 T-shirt, like super like break even, right? You can test, okay, are people willing to pay $12 once they've entered on the yellow t-shirt price and see that it's $2 more expensive? Okay, great. Are they willing to pay 13? Okay, what about 14? And especially with like a print on demand thing where you're not investing initially in the product and you don't have a huge inventory, you can really try testing it over and over again and seeing like, okay, how much can you kind of like get away with in that competitive low price marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got this is actually interesting. I really want to hear your thoughts on this. What Printful products do you recommend for high-end pricing? I feel that at certain price points, a certain quality is expected.
Yes, great question. So what's really cool about Printful is that they have recently I started seeing them put a lot of AS color blanks on there, and I've been telling them from like a year or two ago, I'm like, you guys need to start getting some AS color in there. I saw they got Shaka wear on there now too. So there's a lot of blanks that are coming online that are really premium blanks. Like some of the hoodies that AS Color has, super comfortable, soft. You could sell a lot of those as benefits in your marketing. So when it comes to some of those higher priced products, the hoodies are always something that people are now expecting anywhere between 60 to 80 up to 120, right? And depending on your design, are you embellishing it with some embroidery, and does that design look like it's elevated, right? Like those are some products that you could price for a pretty good high profit. And in the consumer's minds, we're all now looking at hoodies around $80, $100, right? Like I don't think the last time I bought a hoodie, it wasn't any cheaper than like $70, right? So like hoodies are one of those categories that have that pricing differentiator. Other products that they also have are the sublimation ones. Some of the leggings or even like the baseball jerseys. I think those baseball jerseys are pretty unique, and it's something that you could brand as more of like a themed collection. You might be able to get some good profit margins there, $45, $50 for a jersey. Your cost might be anywhere from 27, 25 to 28 if I think last time I looked at it. But looking at the products as like, okay, what does the market expect to pay for this? And if you know that hoodies are that higher range for your market, then that's where you kind of dive into those high profit products from Printful. But if you know that maybe it's the headwear for my market, then you focus on some of the categories that Printful has in headwear. So for the most part, Printful's got something in there for everybody, which is a really cool thing. It's just about how you're going to brand it and market it.
Yeah, my usual tip is always the same. Like embroidery is one of the better customization or like decoration techniques to create a more premium feel. It is like sometimes a little bit more expensive per product, but it really does make a difference in how a product is perceived. Like a thick hoodie with like an embroidered design over here feels so much more premium than like a hoodie with a print. And AS color,
Yep.
yes.
It's
It's
awesome.
genuinely some of my favorite blanks.
And then that's also important to keep in mind, like the embellishing method will also, like you mentioned, will be determined by what is being put on. So if you put that like embroidery on a T-shirt, it may not feel very good. Like it might feel a little scratchy, and the customer will be like, "Yo, why does this feel so cheap?" But it's like the it's because embroidery is being made a certain way, right? And a lot of the products that do better with embroidery are thicker products, more heavyweight products. So you also got to look at the printing method with what you're printing it on.
Yeah, and this is a good time as well if you're like considering a combination that you've never tried before. Like order a sample and see what it looks like and see if the feel is really something that you enjoy. Okay, we have also a very specific question. Do you recommend free shipping? Plus, also, what are your shipping strategies? All right, wait, hold on. I gotta figure out what this says. What is your shipping? All right. So, what is best? First of all, do you recommend free shipping? And what is better, free versus not free versus free after you spend a certain amount of money?
Man, a lot of good categories. And then I think that all goes into like your pricing strategy, right? So, for example, if you do a free, you're still baking in the cost. You should be baking in the cost of shipping to the product, right? So if you were thinking about offering a T-shirt for $25, and now you need to offer it for $30, and then include that free shipping, right? So it's all a pricing strategy depending on what you want to do. If your goal is to bundle more, so like let's say you know that if we could bundle 5 or 4 products in the cart, and then that the shipping becomes so minimal. Maybe they all get bundled in the same box in the same size, so you know that, like, hey, over a certain amount of products you get free shipping, because shipping is essentially almost free if you were to spread it across all the products. Then that's the strategy. But if you're selling maybe just a one-off product, and you're not trying to bundle those, then you have to look at the products and bake in the shipping price. Free shipping should always be a strategy that you use. You shouldn't just offer free shipping and take a loss. Like, that's the last thing you need to do. You're not Amazon, right? You're not Amazon Prime. Like, everybody expects free shipping now, but you need to be able to tailor it for your brand to make money on it, regardless of how you're selling it.
Yeah, this is honestly, I wish that this was like common sense. Don't offer something that's going to lose you money, but please, y'all, do not
Don't
do
do
that.
it. I see it all the time. I'm like, wait, so how much are you selling this for? And you're still getting the charge of shipping. Why didn't you add it on there? They're like, hmm, I don't know. I never thought about that. Yes.
All right,
So you can bake prices into your shipping and still make it free. Just know that that's a pricing strategy you got to think about.
yes, we have a couple more questions. I'm just gonna. Okay, all right. Um, do you think color or fabric type is more important for giving your item a premium type of like feel and cost? So color or fabric type?
Oh, such a great, really good question. So it's all, again, it's that question is definitely going to be subjective on your audience, right? And who your customer is. Because some people like me might only want black. So I go on fabric, right? The fabric type. Is it heavyweight? Is it premium? Is it 100% cotton? What's the GSM, right? If you're trying to sell me a $60 or $80 hoodie, I'm looking at the fabric specs. I mean, t-shirt, $60 or $80 t-shirt, I'm looking at fabric specs. If you're selling me a $120, $130 hoodie, I'm looking at fabric specs. Um, but if you're basing it on color, a lot of the times it might be an on-trend color that can make you stand out, right? So if you got a color that nobody else has, and you know that it's on trend and it's selling well for other brands, then you could also price it at a higher amount. But me, as a customer that likes quality and likes to, like, is very detailed about it, I'm not just going to buy based on color, right? So it all really depends on who your audience is. If they are more for chasing trends and like buying the most trending things, then color is going to be one of your strategies. But if you're selling to people that already like have an understanding about what they want, they follow certain brands because they like their quality, right? So when you do the research, you'll know, hey, I buy these brands because they got really good quality. Like, if they're saying that, you're not necessarily competing on color. You're not competing on the fabric types.
Yeah, I got a couple of people right now in the chat like asking like what hoodie am I wearing, just because like it's a brown color that they like. But realistically, when you're like shopping online, unless you really love a very specific shade of like chocolate brown, you're not going to be swayed by just the color. It's going to be the entire like fit of whatever the hoodie is, and the like general styling even of the photo that's going to make it feel a lot more premium. And to the people asking, I don't like know for sure. I'm gonna check right after the live like the tag, because I don't remember what specific brand it is, but I'm gonna put it in the comments. uh, and we actually have the very last question. So uh, marketplaces versus your own website, what could be better to start off at from your experience?
So marketplaces are a great way to break into the e-commerce side if you're looking at what's on trend. So if you're somebody that could do stuff pretty quickly, maneuver and really start to optimize and have the patience for it, marketplaces are a great place to start listing products and getting sales. So when we were in college, my wife was like one of the top, like, she was killing it on Etsy, right? And she was making these like certain accessories for like college dorm rooms. So she was in college, she was selling, like, she designed things, she would make them, list them on marketplaces. They were on trend. So they would just get sales like coming in every day, and it paid for a lot of her college. But unfortunately, marketplaces also have the downside that you can get shut down at any time, right? And then that was her case. She got shut down for something that, like, she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was abiding by all the rules, but Etsy can shut you down at any time, and so can TikTok Shop, right? So like marketplaces are a strategy to start, but you always need to be able to tie your customers back to a database, right? You got to have control of your customers. So whenever you are shipping out products on marketplaces, you should consider making sure that they also can get a free gift that they go to your website, or have a certain code that they can redeem on your Shopify store. You need to start getting that data between the customers, because if your marketplace gets shut down, you still have the ability to sell to them. And then when you're driving ads and you're doing marketing, you don't want to send them to Etsy, because then you're going to get a bunch of other competitors. So you don't want to spend your money sending people somewhere else. You always want to send them to your own site. So it's a good place to start on marketplaces, but you definitely got to build a brand that's sustainable. You got to have your own e-commerce store, and you got to have your own infrastructure to service and manage those customers.
And if you're selling on marketplaces, like if this is somewhere where you already started, that doesn't mean you have to abandon it. But the two pieces of advice, especially after seeing quite a few people who are our customers who sell on marketplaces, one thing is don't sell on just one marketplace pretty much ever. Like if you're selling on a marketplace, sell on several, right? Like if it's going to be Etsy, I don't know, also try Amazon. It's going to be a slightly different audience. It's going to need a slightly different approach, but at least you don't have all your eggs in one basket. And then the other thing is, if you're going to be running ads, run the ads that are specific to that marketplace. Like you're not going to be winning if you're running ads on Instagram trying to direct people to Etsy. Instead, try Etsy advertising. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, we are done with the questions, but you know what that means? We have several people who are just going to win $50
Who's going to win the money?
So I don't want to do a drum roll because I might hurt everybody's ears, but imagine a drum roll. There we go.
Andre, put the drum roll.
Yeah. The first winner is going to be Neil. So congratulations, Neil. Do keep checking your inbox in the next 10, 15 minutes. Then the next winner is Joe, J-O. And then the third winner is Fabian, not sure. But either way, you guys keep checking your inbox. We're going to reach out to you. Congratulations, and go and spend those $50 on a sample order. See how that premium ticket item really feels and what those things look like. Congratulations to you guys. But most importantly, thank you so much, John. This has been truly amazing. An hour and 20 minutes of just incredible advice to people. So much knowledge that my head is literally spinning. I'm like, oh my God, I just bought so many of those low ticket item t-shirts and that I was tricked into buying by all of these companies who are smarter than me. This is so valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure joining you guys and getting to hear your questions. The links are like they were just put them up. Hit me up on Instagram, send me a DM. Would love to help wherever you're at, give you some advice. And I got the YouTube channel too, which is a wealth of knowledge. And we have a special video coming out with Printful as well at the end of the month. So make sure you guys stay tuned.
Yes, go you guys, subscribe, and we're also going to pop all the links to all of the socials in the description as well, so everyone can go and check them out if you don't want to rewind a little bit and look at all the links. So thank you, and I hope you guys found it valuable, and we will see you next time.
Bye.